And here we go. Looks like it's gone. Well, you're at 104 right now. 152. 176. Oh my gosh. 245. 257. So as they come in, you have almost, we have 260 at least in here now and counting.
Okay.
So we will begin. Coach Joe?
First of all, we want to thank Team Issue for sponsoring Coach Fedora's this afternoon. Team Issue is another one of our great sponsors that helped us put on this coaching convention. We're very thankful that they did give their efforts and help the Coaches Association through this pandemic. Our speaker today is Coach Larry Fedora. Coach Fedora has been a head coach for 11 years at North Carolina, has been coaching for about 29 years in college. Of course, you know, he's very, he and his brother both done a great deal of work through Texas High School Coaches Association and Texas High School football. Coach Fedora has done a fantastic job with the offenses that he's been a part of. And no doubt that Baylor University is in for some great things and great future with Coach Fedora. Coach Fedora, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you very much. And I want to thank the Texas High School Coaches Association for this opportunity. You know, it's always an honor for me to be able to speak in front of what I consider the greatest group of high school coaches in the country. You know, and we're at a difficult time in our profession right now. You know, and your players, your schools, your communities, they need your leadership more than ever. You know, with the crazy time that's going on in our country. You know, football is probably one of the few things that can bring some normalcy into this in this chaotic world we're living in right now. And so hopefully we'll be able to get that back. You know, that's something that I think is pretty important. So I think it's important for me to kind of give you an idea on my background and where I come from, so you'll know who's influenced my life and my coaching life. So I grew up in College Station, Texas. I've got 3 brothers. My youngest brother is the head coach at A&M Consolidated High School. My dad is a barber. He's an 84-year-old barber. My mother is a homemaker. Played at A&M Consolidated High School, and from there went to Sherman, Texas to play at Austin College. After a career there at Austin College, I started coaching. Probably made the best decision I ever made in my life and became a Texas high school coach. Coached at Garland High School. Scott Smith is the first one to give me a job. Had a tremendous impact on who I am as a coach and how I coach today. When Scott left to go work for Forrest Gregg at SMU, Dennis Harris took over after that, and I learned a lot from Dennis Harris. I then was fortunate enough to be able to come to Baylor University. I worked with the legendary Hall of Fame coach Grant Taft. I was a GA for his last 2 years. So I was a 30-year-old GA. Spent 2 years with him. And then when he retired, Chuck Reedy, who was the offense coordinator, got the job. And Chuck hired me on his staff. And so I'm thankful to Chuck because he gave me an opportunity to be a full-time coach. Learned a lot from Chuck Reedy. And I was very fortunate to be able to go work with Fisher DeBerry at the Air Force Academy. What a tremendous man, and a tremendous influence he had on my life. I was only there for a couple of years when I got my first offensive coordinator's job at Middle Tennessee State in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, under Coach Andy McCollum, and learned a lot from Andy. You know, from there, Ron Zook, who was the head coach at the University of Florida, hired me, and I went there to be the coordinator at the University of Florida. Spent 3 years with Ron. And Mike Gundy became the head coach at Oklahoma State and asked me to bring the style of offense that we had designed and put together, bring it to Oklahoma State. So I did that. Spent 3 years, 3 great years with Mike, and was fortunate enough to get the head coaching job at the University of Southern Mississippi. Went there and spent 4 years at Southern Miss, and then was fortunate enough to get the head coaching job at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. Spent 7 years there in Chapel Hill. And this last year, I went to be an analyst under Tom Herman at the University of Texas, and kind of gets me to where I am today. So that gives you an idea on who all's influenced me in my coaching career, and why I do the things that I do. So I'm very fortunate to have a tremendous staff around me, and I would not be at Baylor University if it wasn't for Dave Aranda. For those of you who don't know Dave, you should look forward to the chance to getting to meet him in the future. Dave's a guy that I had never crossed paths with, but he was a guy that I had a tremendous amount of respect for as a defensive coach. I thought he had one of the brightest defensive minds in the country. I studied him because I knew eventually sometime I would be playing against him, and I wanted to know what made him tick, And so when Dave called and offered me a job at Baylor, it was just something that I couldn't pass up. So, one thing kind of crazy about the whole deal is I left the state in 1996 and didn't get back to the state of Texas until this past year. That was a long time to be away from the state. So you can see our staff right here. Joe Wickline, he's our O-line coach. Joe he and I got together at Middle Tennessee State. We actually put together the offense back then in 1999, that we kind of the basis of what we run today. Back at that time, nobody was full-time, no huddle, and multi-tempos was not something that anybody talked about. So we did that a long time ago and have had some success with it. George Munoz is our new passing game coordinator, and he coaches our wide receivers. George was at LSU the last couple of years, was very instrumental in the season that they had this past year and helping out with the quarterback. And then we got Juice Johnson, or Justin Johnson, who was a University of Houston grad and a coaching our running backs, a bright young coach. And then Sean Bell, who's a Baylor grad, played here at Baylor, and has done a tremendous job as a high school coach in the state of Texas at China Springs, and then was fortunate enough to come back to his alma mater. So I feel very, very fortunate to be able to be around a staff like this. I'm going to talk about the way we do game planning. Okay, so, it goes back to probably my earliest influence in game planning was with the offensive coordinator who was here at Baylor in the early 90s that Chuck hired, and his name was Jack Crow. Some of you may be familiar with Jack Crow, some of you may not. But Jack Crow was a very detailed a guy. He was very disciplined, and he was a disciple of Bill Walsh. He studied Bill Walsh, and that's the way he developed his plan for game planning. And so a lot of what I do today comes all the way back from in those early 90s. It was to plan for every situation that could come up in a game. It was being able to teach your players in a way that they wouldn't have to think during a game, that they could just react. We all know that those players that we've got that, they're great athletes, and then all of a sudden we implement something or give them a plan, and then they don't look near as athletic and they look very slow, and it's because they're thinking. And so we don't want our guys to have to think. We want them to be able to react. So we have to be able to teach them in a manner that they can learn it quickly and process it. So I guess for me, one of the biggest things and one of the biggest factors was as a new coordinator back in the day was making sure that our players had confidence in our plan, and then also that they had confidence in me. And my biggest fear back then was that something was going to come up in a game that I hadn't prepared them for. And then that was my fault. Or something might come up in the game and I didn't have an answer for it in the game, an adjustment. And that would be my fault. Therefore, my players might lose confidence in me, and I didn't want that to ever happen. So it was always over-preparing so that our guys would have confidence. So here are 5 keys to victory that we look for in, for our season. So we talked to our team about this. So number 1 is 100% ball security. Number 2 is to create 10 or more explosive plays. Number 3 is first down efficiency. Number 4 is critical situation execution. And number 5 is no pre or post play penalties. And this is one thing that we talk to our offense about, that if they can accomplish these things, they put our team in the best position to win a football game. You know, we're going to always try to focus on 4 areas that have the greatest impact on the game. You know, turnovers being number 1. You know, looked at a study that in the last 3 years in the FBS alone, the team that won the turnover battle won 77% of their games. Didn't matter what else happened in the game. The team that won the turnover battle in the last 3 years, with 130 teams, they won 77% of their games. So if you just think about that one simple thing right there, if you can not turn the football over, if you can take care of the ball, which was our key to victory, number 1 key to victory was 100% ball security. If you can win that battle alone, you got a chance of winning 7 of your 10 games, or even more than that. So that's a pretty good stat right there in itself. The next area is explosive plays. Okay, and this goes all the way back to Bill Walsh, where he you know, an explosive play for Bill Walsh back then was you know, plus 12 yards for a run and 16 yards for a pass. And we still use those as our guidelines. First down efficiency. You know, we're always shooting for 50% on first down efficiency. We want 4 yards or more 50% of the time on first down. If we can do that, that can keep us on schedule, you know, so it makes the game easier to call. There's a lot more normal down and distance calls that you prepare than for second long or third and long calls. And then red zone efficiency. You know, you got to be efficient in the red zone. Probably in last 3 years over FBS, I think scoring in the red zone average is about 80%. So we're shooting for somewhere above 90% as far as a goal for us in scoring in the red zone. All right, so the very first thing that you've got to do when you're putting an offense together and creating a game plan is trying to decide how much offense you can handle. So that's one of the toughest questions for a coordinator is how much is enough, how much is too much, how much can you practice and execute? And that's always based on your lowest common denominator. You know, if little Johnny out there playing at the X receiver can't handle much offense, well, then you probably shouldn't put more in than little Johnny can handle. And then on top of that, you don't want to waste time practicing something that you're not going to call or you're not going to be able to get called in a game. So what I do is I like to look at the national averages. You know, and if you look right here on the screen, you've got in 1st and 10, you've got 29 calls per game is what the national average is. Out of those 29 calls in a game, you've got a P and 10 of 11 a game. And then 2nd and 6 or less, which I still consider normal down and distance, is 11 per game. So you're talking 40 calls a game right there on just normal down and distance. All right. So for us, we go into that knowing that we've got 40 normal down and distance calls. Now we break it down and decide how do we want that to look. So is that going to be a balanced attack? Is it going to be 50-50? Is it going to be 60-40, you know, run pass? Is it going to be 65-35 run pass or pass run? Whatever you decide your attack is going to be, this is where you start breaking it down. So the example that I have on the screen right now is just a 20-20, a balanced attack, 20 run, 20 pass. So you take your 20 runs and you can break it down beyond that and you can say, okay, that's 10 runs in the, that's 20 plays per half, 10 runs in the first half, 10 passes in the first half, all right? But over the game, 20 runs and 20 passes. Now within those 20 runs, whatever your style of offense is, whatever runs you have, you get to decide, what they're going to be, what they're going to look like, how many inside zones, how many outside zones, how many counters, how many options, whatever your style of offense is, you get to decide what those 20 runs are. Now, you're not necessarily going to have 20 different run plays called, right, for those 20 runs, especially when you start breaking them down. Same thing in your 20 passes. You've got a variety of passes in your offense, from screens to quicks, to play action, to drop back, to misdirection. Whatever your passing game is, you get to decide on what that ratio is going to be. How many screens are you going to throw in those 20 normal down and distance call? How many quicks, how many play actions? You get to make those decisions and go from there. So usually in normal down and distance calls, with 40 of them in a game, I'm going to carry somewhere between 27 to 30 normal down and distance calls in a game. And again, those may not be all different, all right, but I'm going to have around 27 to 30 calls ready on my call sheet. And that's what we're going to prepare for during a week. Now, here's something else that I believe in, and this is having openers. And this, again, goes all the way back to Bill Walsh that I learned from Jack Crow. And Bill Walsh always scripted out his first 25 plays. Now, I usually go to about 15 is what I'm comfortable doing. And why do you script those openers? Well, one, you get to decide what the offense is going to look like. There's no stress involved. You're sitting in an air-conditioned room with your coaches, and you're making a decision on how you want your openers to look. You get to predetermine what your run-pass ratio is going to be. All right? You're going to mix your personnel and formations, so you're going to give different looks. You're going to make the defense show their hand. So now you know what the defensive game plan is going to be as you've shown different formations and you've mixed your personnel and your run-pass ratio. So you get an idea of what the defense is trying to do in this game plan. Your coaches, your assistants know what to prepare for. They know what they need to coach their kids on, right? They know what they need to be looking for as they're watching in the game. Your players, it's important because the players, they know what's coming. You've already worked out the openers. You've already coached them up on the openers. It's easier for them to get into a rhythm because you've practiced it. And then also, I think, there's guys, you know how it is. Sometimes you've decided on a week that you got a couple of gadgets, a couple special plays you want to call, and you practice them. But then for whatever reason, you don't get them called in the game. Well, if you script them into your openers, you make sure you get them called. And then your offense gains confidence. You start having some success with your openers, and your offense gains a little bit of confidence, and they get better. You present a diverse offense to the defense with all the multiple looks. So, again, I think openers are pretty important. It's something that I feel comfortable doing, and I think I've had success doing it. Your priority of your openers, really, it's one, it's your first down. I mean, it's what do you want to start the game out with, and what are you trying to accomplish? Well, you're trying to create a first down. Maybe on that first play, you want to create a first down. Or maybe it's something that's going to be safe. It's to get your quarterback in a rhythm, and it's something that you can stay on schedule. So you just want to get 4 yards so that you're second and medium, and then third and medium or less, right? Or it's maybe to create an explosive. Because explosive plays are a big part of the game and a major part of the outcome of the game. So it gives you an opportunity to create an explosive play in an opener. All right. Now, after normal down and distance calls, we start looking at off-schedule calls. Okay. So if you look at first and 11 plus against with a national average, and these are FBS numbers. This is the national average out of 130 teams in the last couple of years. So on first and 11 plus, you're going to average a couple of those a game. And on 2nd and 7 or more, we're going to average somewhere around 13 per game. So you're looking at 15 off-schedule calls in a game. Now, I'm not necessarily going to carry 15 new plays or 15 new calls for this area. I'm going to usually carry 7 or 8 plays in this situation. And out of those 7 or 8, some of them may be a carryover from the normal down and distance calls. Because as you start studying the defense that you're game planning for, they may not change, from normal down and distance to off schedule calls. Or they may. So you have to make that decision. You got to make a decision on whether they're different, and if they are, how you want to attack them. You may be a higher passing percentage here in your ratio than you were in your normal down and distance. So when you establish your 7 or 8 plays in this area, you may be focused more on the passing game. Maybe there's more quicks. Maybe it's more drop back. It's whatever you feel comfortable, whatever you can accomplish offensively. That takes us to another critical situation, or a critical situation, all right, which is third downs. So again, looking at the national average per game, on 3rd and short, which I consider 1 to 2, you're going to average about 3 of these calls per game. So there's no reason to carry 5 3rd and short calls in a game, all right? There's no reason to practice those because, one, you can't get them called, and depending on what they are in your offense. So if you're going to have 3 calls per game in this area, I'm going to carry about 3. Now, and it depends on what the game plan is that week. If it's going to be the normal offense, all right, then it may be plays that are carrying over from my normal down and distance. I'm usually going to look at some type of tempo in 3rd and short. So, and how tempo affects the defense. So if we can get lined up and get a play call before they can get their call and get lined up, we feel like we have an advantage. So that may be part of our 3rd and short call in the game. Or we may decide we're going to get big, all right? We're going to go to a jumbo package and get big people in there and just knock somebody off the ball. Just depends on who you are. But we're going to carry about 3 of those into a game. Now, obviously, you're always trying to pick up the first down on 3rd and short, but also this may be a time when you decide you're going to take a shot. So out of those 3 calls, there may be 1 call in there that you saved for taking a shot in the game and trying to get a big play. And I'm not talking about a shot of picking up 10 yards. I'm talking about a chunk play, where you're going to take a chance. You go to 3rd and medium, you're going to average about 5 of those per game, all right? And out of those 5, the years that we've been good, we've been able to stay fairly balanced on offense in our run-pass ratio on 3rd and medium. If you can run the football in 3rd and medium, 3rd and 3 to 6, and still pick up and convert first downs, then you're going to probably be pretty good on offense. If you have to throw it every time on 3rd and medium to pick up a first down, I haven't had as much success. I'll just put it that way. So in that 3rd and medium, usually I'm going to carry about 5 calls there, with 2 of them being, in the running game and probably 3 passes there. And again, you get to decide and how you want to break that up, whether those 2 runs or things that you're normally running that's in the normal down and distance, or in the passing game, whether they're going to be play action, because if you're going to be able to run the ball in 3rd and medium, play action can be a factor. Misdirection can be a factor. Your drop back, your quicks, all those things. So you get to decide if you're going to carry 3 passes there or 4, you got to decide what they're going to be. What area do you want them to come from? You move into 3rd and long. All right, you can see there's going to be about 5 a game, and I'm talking 7 to 10. Now, within 3rd and long, when you start game planning, you have a couple different ways you can go. You can throw passes that are going to pick up that distance when they're caught, or you can throw the ball under the chains and let guys run for it. So a lot of that depends on the defense that you're looking at. Are they a zone defense where they're going to let you catch the ball underneath it so they can rally to the tackle? Or are they going to be more man where their eyes aren't on the quarterback? So you have to make a decision if you're going to throw for the sticks or if you're going to throw under the sticks. And it may be a combination of the two, you know. And if you get into a game plan and the defense is very multiple, then you've got to have, with those routes, as you break it down, you got to have multi-coverage beaters. They got to be combo beaters. They got to be, half the field versus looks good for zone and half the field versus man. However you want to break it up. If they're a straight man team, then you know you're only running man routes. All right. So whatever it is, whatever they are, you've got to fit it in here in third and long. And then we're going to prepare for 2 third and extra longs per game. Now, we may not carry 2 calls. We may carry 1, all right? And it may be a carryover that you used in your 3rd and 7 to 10 package. So again, you get to decide that depending on what the defense is going to do. Now, the other thing that I do here in third downs is I carry a couple of attack third downs. And what I mean by attack third downs, in our 3rd and long, I'm usually going to carry 1 attack third down. In our 3rd mediums, I'm going to carry usually 1 attack third down. And what I mean by attack third down is when you get into that situation in the game where the head coach says, hey, you're in a 4-down situation, that area of the field that he feels comfortable of you being in a 4-down situation, that's going to affect what you're going to call on 3rd down. So I already want to have that prepared that if Coach Aranda says, hey, you're in a 4-down situation here, I know what I'm going to call on 3rd down because I've prepared an attack 3rd down. Now, it may be I'm trying to get the whole amount to pick up the 1st down there, or I'm only trying to pick up maybe half of it. So I make 4th down a manageable play. All right. So that, again, is up to your philosophy. Now, I think it's very important that your players understand what success is, all right, during your 3rd downs. So 3rd down conversion is very important. So if you look across the country, and I'm going to tell you, I started back in 1994, started looking at these national averages every single year, and it's amazing, how small or how little it's changed over the years. You thought his offenses have evolved and defenses evolved, that the numbers would change, but they really haven't changed that much over the last 30 years. So what we're shooting for is at least 85% conversion rate on 3rd and short. In 3rd and medium, we want to be about 50%. And on 3rd and long, just 7 or more, we're looking at 28%. So if we can do that, all right, then we feel pretty comfortable. Our players need to understand what success is. So if you look at that overall, if you finish at the end of the year on 3rd down conversions at our level at say 50%, well, you're going to be in the top 4 or 5 usually in the country at 50%. So that's not something that everybody does. It's going to be more apt to be in the mid 40s to low 40s as far as the conversion rate. So I think it's really important, because as you look at this, you say, well, 3rd and long, you only want to try to convert 28%. Well, there's if you can convert on 3rd and long 1 out of every 4, you're going to be around 25%. You're going to be doing pretty good. If you can convert 2 out of 5, you're going to be way ahead of the curve. All right. And you're going to be really in good shape as the game goes on. So I think, again, it's important that your players understand this, especially if your style of practice is to practice a period of 3rd and long, and that's all your practice is 3rd and long. Because, when you're only converting 1 out of every 4, and let's say you ran 8 reps during that practice period and the players only converted 2, they're going to walk out of there with their head down, like they didn't have success, because they're trying to convert every one of them, but it's not going to be real possible. So they need to understand that if they did that, you know what? They had success. So I think that's important. They need to understand that. All right, the next critical situation that I'm going to talk about is red zone. And again, going back to the national average, per game. From the 25 going in, you're going to average around 15 calls per game in that area of the field. All right. Now, if you're 75 to 77 plays in a game, 15 of them are going to come out of that red zone. Again, that's a very critical area because you're wanting to score. You got to score points in the red zone. You can't come away. We already said that we wanted to have somewhere above 90% that we want to score in the red zone. So with 15 calls in the game, you got to prepare for that. So I'm going to have somewhere around 10 calls per game in that area of the game, right? Or in that area of the field. Your quarterback understands you're in scoring range. So you don't want to put him in a position where we're going to go backwards. We're going to lose yards. We're going to take sacks, those kind of things. You don't want him to have to hold the ball back there, right? He has to understand that we are in scoring range and we want to score now. If you break down the red zone, you're going to see that the high red zone, the 25 to the 13, for us is you're going to have about 7 calls per game. And what we call the score zone, between the 12 and the 4, all right, you're going to have about 6 of those in a game. And then on the goal line, you're going to usually have about 2 goal line calls per game. All right. So like I told you, we're going to carry about 10 of those total, not counting in the goal line. So in those 10, we're going to have maybe just a few more in the red zone, the high red zone, and a little bit less in the score zone. Where does the defense change? What is that line that they change? Is it the 12-yard line? Is it the 10? I mean, where is it? Is it the 13? Is it the 14? You have to determine where the defense changes their philosophy. Do they blitz you more in this area? Where do they start blitzing more? Where do they go to man? Where do they play combination coverages? Where do they bracket? All those things, and that's where you have to start preparing calls for. So there's also within these calls, normally in the red zone, you're going to have about 3 third down calls, right? 2 of them being medium or long and 1 third and short. Now your third and short may just carry over from what you did earlier in the game or out in the field. But your third and medium and your third and long call may not because of the spacing on the field. So you have to determine that. There's obviously less space, which means the windows are smaller and they close quicker for the quarterback. So don't put him in a position where he's going to have to hold the ball and have multiple progressions to try to read through. Now, one area that I think a lot of people that I've seen in the past, and I've been, I've done the same thing, is to have too many goal line calls. Because when you think about it, you're going to have 2 in a game, 2 in every game. And what every coordinator worries about is that you're not going to have enough calls when you get into a game, but 2 a game isn't very many. So really you don't need, 5, 6 goal line calls that you need to have practiced with your team because you're not going to have that many. You can't get to them. So again, don't waste practice on something that you're not going to call or you're not going to get to call. So it just makes you do a much better job earlier in the week deciding on what you're going to actually call in the game. All right. So we're going to usually carry 2 to 3 into a game on the goal line. That's it. And it might be, we decided it might be 2 runs and 1 pass. And that 1 pass may be play action, or it may be a pop in the tight end, or it may be a fade. You got to decide what it's going to be. But there's no reason to carry more than 2 or 3 into a game. That's really all the time you have to practice it, because when you start talking about just 2 in a game, that's probably 1%, 2% of the game calls. And so you can't spend 10 minutes of practice time, all right, because that's more than 10% on goal line, all right? So we try not to do that. Now, in those 3 calls we may be in our normal offense, our normal personnel group, our normal tempo, or we may go up tempo there and change the tempo. So it still may be a normal call for us, or we may, again, like on 3rd and short, decide to get big, go jumbo, all right, get our big people in and get, do something there. But normally that's going to be about 1, maybe 2 calls if we decide to do that. the next critical situation that we prepare for is our 2-point plays. Okay. And so on our 2-point plays, you're going to average, just basically one of these a game. And really it's less than one a game. So, but for us, I'm going to normally carry 4 a game. And the reason why would you carry 4 when you're only going to get to call 1? Well, 1 is a lot of times it's carryover from week to week to week. So it may be something we practiced in the first week and it doesn't get called. It's still good the second week. We practice it then, it doesn't get called. So it might be the 4th week before we get one called. All right. So that carryover means we're able to practice it more often. And then the other part about it is the reason that I carry 4 is because, one, you go to overtime and now you need them. You get to a point in your overtime, and for us, you got to have them. So it's important because you don't want to get to the most critical point in the game to win or lose it with a 2-point play, and you don't have enough of them in your package, and you've already used one in the game, whatever it is. And then I learned from experience, I always carry 1 long yardage. When you say, why would you do that? Well, I got into a game back at Middle Tennessee State, and we had one prepared, and our right tackle flinched. And so now we're on the 8-yard line, and we have to go for 2, and I didn't have something prepared. And I hadn't prepared my team, so that was on me. So now I always carry a long yardage 2-point play. And you say, yeah, you know what? It may come from what we're doing on 3rd down. That's fine. But you just need to have one prepared, and you need to know what you're going to call if that situation happens. All right, backed up. All right, backed up or coming out, whatever you call it. I'm usually going to prepare just a couple of plays because you're only going to be in there one time in every game on the average. So in that, I'm going to basically prepare 1 series. And that's inside the 3, you probably maybe have 2 plays at the most. So we're going to prepare a couple, 1 series. Now, our goal, and it's something that we talk about with our players, is that we want to pick up 2 first downs. If we can pick up at least 2 first downs, we've now at least flipped the field. So, if the defense makes us punt, they're not getting the ball on plus territory, and we're giving up a score basically to them. I heard this one time that somebody's going to score. So in the philosophy of what you're going to do, are you going to throw the ball down the field? Are you going to take a chance at a shot? You going for a score? You going for a 99-yard drive or 99 a big play? All right. And if you are, you got a chance to score. And if you don't, all right, probably the defense is going to score because they're going to get the ball somewhere in the plus territory, and their offense is going to have a good chance to score. So somebody's band's going to play when you're down there inside the -3 yard line. But again, we're going to we're going to prepare a couple of plays in that situation. All right, now you get us to 2-minute. We start focusing on 2-minute. And if you really look at your 2-minute and what we're in a no-huddle offense, so it's what we do all the time. So I don't have to spend a lot of time on the procedures of 2-minute with our team because we're calm, we're relaxed. We can run our offense efficiently out of what we normally do, and our kids should be comfortable with it. But we are going to prepare, for me, 3 to 4 plays out of a 2x2 set, all right? Or 3 to 4 plays out of 3x1 set. And that's really all I'm concerned with in my 2-minute situation, because outside of that, the whole offense is available. And, depending on whether you have time for a running play or just passes, but your offense is all in play here, okay? But those 3 or 4 plays in a 2x2 or a 3x1 are when that clock is running. And I can't stop the clock, and I need to be lined up. And we were in a 2x2 play, the play before. Well, I'm not going to change the formation. I'm going to go to one of these 3 or 4 plays that we're prepared for. Or we were in 3x1. I'm not going to change the formation, and we're going to go to one of these 3 or 4 plays. Then we get the ball out of bounds or throw an incomplete pass or pick up a first down. Clock's going to stop. What I do focus on with our offense is knowing what starts and stops the clock. I mean, you watch games and you watch how much time people waste because there was a penalty and the offense didn't realize that the clock was going to start on the official's signal, and they're sitting there mulling around and the clock is running. So it's very important that our guys know what start and stops the clock in 2 minutes. All right. The next critical situation that we're going to talk about and what we prepare for is the 4 minute. And there we want to finish the game. Okay. Basically, we want to end the ball with the game in our hand. And if we have it on offense, hey, we're going to win the game. We're ahead anyway. All right. We talk about picking up 2 first downs. If we can do that, we got a chance. All right. We got a chance to finish this thing off. We want to stay in bounds. We talk about all those things. Okay. We want to eat the clock. And most importantly, we want to protect the ball. All right. I've got 5 minutes here, so I'm going to kind of move fairly quickly in this thing. But we're going to prepare basically one series in this situation where the quarterback needs to know, hey, if we're throwing, taking a sack or running and getting back to the line of scrimmage is a lot more important than throwing an incompletion. So those are all things that you got to talk about with your quarterback. Last plays. All right, and I'm going to move quickly here. Last plays based on field position, and that's depending on the arm of your quarterback. If we're outside the 40-yard line and he can't get the ball to the end zone, we have a play that is designed to throw the ball around. If you get inside the 40 to the 30, we have one play that's designed with no time on the clock. This is the last play of the game. From the plus 30 to the plus 20. To the plus 20 to the 10, and from the 10 to the goal line. So we have 5 different last plays that we work on once a week. So our guys know what that play is. It's not going to change from week to week. It is that way the entire season. And so if we get into a situation where there's 4 seconds on the clock and the clock's running, our guys ought to be able to line up and know exactly what they're running because we've worked those once a week, every single week. All right, game responsibilities, and I'm going to move real quick here. You can see for me, it's all the defensive schemes, deciding on the run-pass ratio, and I focus on the red zone also. Our passing game coordinator is working on the coverage schemes and all the passing game. Our O-line is front schemes, run game, blitz. Our tight end coach is working on run game, short yardage, and goal line, and our running back coach is working on the blitz schemes, run game, short yardage, and goal line. That's responsibilities during the week. If you look at our timeline, usually on Sunday after our practice and after we've put the previous game to bed, we're going to watch a couple of games. And that's just to start identifying fronts, coverages, blitzes, and make sure we're all on the same page. And then we're going to finalize our scouting report. Monday morning is when we do, Monday is our no practice day, so we do all of our game planning basically. We get a scouting report to start off the day. We're going to work on our base offense, our normal down and distance calls. So we have coaches that are working on the run game by formations. We have coaches that are working on the pass game by formations. And we're going to put those normal down and distance calls all on the board. Juice is working on blitzes at that time also. And after we put all that, when we get all that together, we're going to get together as a staff and we're going to review the base offense and the blitz problems that it created. After that, sometime in the afternoon, in the evening, we're going to split up again. We've got coaches who are going to be working on short yardage and goal line. And Munoz and myself are going to work on our third medium, third long, and third extra long package. Practice on Tuesday. What we're going to do is when we come in on Tuesday morning, we're going to now cut down the base offense. Because from Monday night, we put it all up there on things that we thought were good. Now we got to start cutting things down because we can't practice at all. And then also we're going to talk about gadgets as an offensive staff and what we need to carry that week. Then we're going to review the practice tape. Wednesday, we're going to get up and we're going to, Wednesday morning, we're going to, as an offensive staff, game plan, red zone, score zone, and all of our 2-point plays. And then we'll have practice and review practice tape. On Thursday, we're going to finalize the game plan. We're going to finish up 2 minute, finish 4 minute. We're going to establish our openers as a staff also so that we know what we want to run. And that's what we're going to practice that Thursday in practice. And then Friday, it's done. We put it all to bed. So, listen, I know that that was fast. Appreciate the opportunity to get to talk to you guys. Whenever this COVID stuff is over with, we love to have you on our campus. We've got an open door policy. Texas high school coaches are always welcome. If you don't take advantage of that, that's your fault. If you have questions about anything that I've given you in this, in this little talk here on game planning, and you want to get more into the weeds, I've got David Wetzel's email right here. If you'll just contact David Wetzel and send your questions to him, we'll get back the answers to you and get what you need. Man, I appreciate it. I hope we get to play some football. We need some normalcy in this country, and good luck to all of you this fall.
Okay, Coach Fedora, good job. This lecture's officially closed.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Where's my end? I'm supposed to, oh, here it is. Pause. There we go. Okay, adios.